I know you hate to follow a beauty queen, Miss Cornett, but do the best you can.
That's a tough act to follow. Tonight, this will be the first in a series of updates, quarterly updates, on the Kroll Forensic Review that the city had done. And first I wanted to say that the city is totally committed to transparency, accountability, and responsible governance. And our decision to engage Kroll, which is a forensic auditing firm, and then publishing their full report and making it available to the public is a prime example. Some of the findings here, before we get into it, some of the findings here were uncovered by our own internal review, which in part led us to request the full forensic study. And some corrective action has already been taken. So this accountability report that I'm providing tonight shows that the city is being proactive and responding to address these issues. So the goal here is to walk through each one of the identified issues from the report and give a progress report to let you know what we're doing to address each item and to provide a target date for completion. And in future quarterly reports, I'll update you on the progress of all the unresolved issues. Okay. All right, Wendy. Oh, it's working. Okay, so let's take the first item, the erroneous financial reporting. The overstatement in the general fund balance of $36 million that was mentioned in the Kroll Report does not indicate that there was any missing money, but instead reflected an incorrectly reported general fund balance on interim and unaudited financial reports that were provided for the fiscal years 22 and 23. Information on hand shows that there were significant transfers from the general fund that were not made as commitments to capital projects were approved, and that left the general fund at an inflated balance. This impacted our internal reporting on the interim financial statements that were provided by the previous CFO to elected leadership and in public documents. Corrective action to cure these errors was taken once the audited financial statements by our independent auditor, BMSS, were published for both fiscal years. The audited financial year-end 2022 statements were published and made publicly available in August 2023, and then the 2023 statements were published in August of 2024. So we consider that item to be closed. Now, we do acknowledge that there were errors made in recording regular journal entries and accrual entries and auditor adjustments in prior years. The Muus payroll system contributed to the quantity of those adjustments, but many of the errors and delays point back to a need for additional training and increased staffing levels in the finance department. These problems are going to be addressed moving forward with training, oversight, and self-checks and reconciliations. So moving forward, a system of self-review and quality control measures will be implemented to ensure the reliability of those interim financial statements that are being provided. The next item was deleted, missing, and or destroyed records. So we do acknowledge that there were electronic files and paper files that were deleted from the offices of the former city administrator and the former CFO treasurer. This included the removal of email history and phone data. It is unfortunate that these working files were not able to be retrieved, as it could have provided some assistance to the incoming city administrator and CFO to have these historical documents as a starting point. Through the help of our city clerk's office, BMSS, and Wallace Jordan, we have been able to recreate the permanent files, providing important reference information that would have normally been accessible to a successor. So from a financial perspective, none of the supporting documentation or proof related to financial transactions was removed, as this was hosted within Muus, which is our enterprise resource planning system. We do not believe any mission critical information was lost in the process. However, we have turned over the information about this event to the appropriate authorities, and we've since increased the frequency and the retention period of backup files. The city will continue to develop and refine its disaster recovery policies, but we have exhausted all efforts to recover these files and consider this issue closed as well. The next item has to do with the finance department being understaffed. 2 former employees returned as part-time contractors to help bridge the gap and reclaim some lost institutional knowledge and experience. Robert Yeager, retired city CFO and treasurer, and then Melissa Woods, retired division director of general ledger and payroll. Both of these individuals are CPAs. As you know, 4 additional positions have already been approved by council, and we are in the various stages of interview and selection process. Also, Melissa came out of retirement and has been appointed as a full-time provisional employee in the new senior financial analyst position, and she is really going to be instrumental in training new hires and existing employees in the historical best practices for the city. So we are actively working on this one, and our target for completion of this item is the first quarter calendar year 2025. The next item noted was lack of experience and training in a particular division. We have identified experienced individuals with concentrated expertise in each of these areas to lead the effort in addressing correction. Kay Troop, an HR and payroll expert with a BMSS-related company, has joined us to provide on-site, to provide review and guidance and training over our payroll processes. She's actually helping us work on developing written payroll policies and procedures that will assist in onboarding the new payroll manager to ensure a clean handoff. Melissa Woods, who I just mentioned, will be instrumental in training new hires and existing employees in historical best practices for the general ledger. A thorough vetting process will ensure candidates selected for these new positions will have the necessary background, skills, and experience to make an immediate contribution to the team. 3 additional office spaces are needed to accommodate the approved new positions, and a budget amendment request to convert conference room space is on the agenda tonight. And we expect for our target date completion of this item to be the first quarter of 2025 calendar year. Next, lack of training skills and communication. So we acknowledge that there are unique skills that are required to manage payroll and general ledger functions. So experienced help from both Kay and Melissa during the transition period will promote and accelerate the learning curve for each of the new managers. Immediate attention is being given to training existing employees in their assigned roles. Both Kay and Melissa have extensive experience and a willingness to teach others, and both are very committed to formal job training and cross-training. The emphasis on training and communication will be transferred to the new managers who will share in this commitment and priority. Written policies and procedures, of course, will assist employees in understanding their responsibility as it relates to a whole. Again, the target for completion of this item is the first quarter calendar year 2025. Lack of formal policies and procedures. So we've gathered peer policies to use as a starting point from peer cities. We plan to identify gaps in our processes to make sure these items are included in the final written policy. Care will be taken to make sure that we fold in the existing policies that we do have related to debt, investment, general fund balance, and budget stabilization in that final and completed policy for the city. A substantial amount of work has already been done on a policy related to grants and a policy related to payroll. So attention to the development of policies will commence once our open positions are filled, and our target for completion of a draft policy is first quarter 2025. Next, we have the Muus Accounting and Software Implementation. So the city acknowledges the Muus implementation process did not go smoothly. The general ledger module had fewer problems than the payroll module, and the city continues to deal with payroll issues that relate to the hasty implementation and setup of that system. Now, no system is perfect, and Muus definitely has its shortcomings, but it does appear most of our issues relate back to the setup and architecture of the payroll system. The payroll staff has worked tirelessly since implementation to correct payroll problems related to incorrect employee paychecks. Now let me be clear, paychecks are going out on time and are accurate. Our payroll team is spending a very disproportionate amount of time to make sure the payroll deadlines are being met with accuracy. In August, a software trainer came in to assess the situation and assist us with an evaluation, but it did not result in an immediate solution. Again, most errors seem to point back to the original setup of pay codes and deductions. We are currently evaluating our options that include a re-implementation and an in-house revision. So our target for completion on this one is to have a action plan in place by the second quarter 2025, with the full resolution of this item to be determined after we have made additional evaluation. The next item noted in the report were fluctuations in the finance department budget. The prior year fluctuations in the budget noted appear to be the result of planning for 3 senior positions to be deleted and the related payouts, and the combination of 2 positions into 1 when the finance division director positions were created. The fiscal year 2025 budgeting process involved an academic approach to budgeting revenues and expenses with the highest degree of precision possible. Examination of prior year actual revenues and expenditures were reviewed to make sure we are efficiently using our resources in keeping with the city's operating priorities. For that reason, we feel that this item is closed. The next item of note had to do with budget presentations. We do acknowledge there was a decline in the quality of budget information and detail in prior years. And this has been addressed with the approved fiscal year 2025 budget. So again, we find this item to be complete and closed. The next item has to do with a lack of complete and timely reconciliations. So we've been working to train new personnel on the completion of bank reconciliations, but this has been delayed a bit with the vacancy in the division director payroll and general ledger position, and then other workload considerations. Development of fiscal policies and procedures will help, but an emphasis on self-checks and quality controls and reviews is essential here. Melissa Woods is going to help us train existing and new employees, and additional staffing will help bring these reconciliations up to date. The expected timeline to bring those reconciliations up to date is 4 to 6 months. So our target for completion of this item is the second quarter calendar year 2025. The last item of note had to do with unaddressed payroll issues. So the city acknowledges past problems with the quarterly payroll tax reportings, the Form 941s. Until the first quarter of 2024, first calendar year quarter of 2024, no reconciliation was being performed in connection with the preparation of that quarterly report, which includes completion of a Schedule B. The second quarter 2024 941 filing was reconciled and properly filed, and we now have a documented process for reconciliations moving forward. Also, we have engaged Payroll Benefit Solutions, a BMSS company, to represent our interests before the IRS. As you know, the city paid $78,000 to satisfy the IRS's intent to levy, but the firm is representing the city to remedy this discrepancy, as well as other issues related to prior years' unreconciled and incorrect tax reporting. And our target for completion of that item is the second quarter calendar year 2025. In summary, as I noted before, many of the findings from this report were not a surprise. After I became the CFO, I identified many of these concerns and brought them to council, and these became supporting reasons for the request to conduct a forensic review. I wanted to make sure we had a full view and understanding of the issues, so thank you for allowing us to move forward with your full support. In the end, we were very happy to hear that Kroll found no financial fraud or asset misappropriation. Today, the city is in a strong financial position and has a large reserve of cash and investments. And during the September 2024 Investment Committee meeting, our advisor analyzed our bond rating as it relates to financial performance and determined the city's AAA bond rating remains secure. My team and I take our responsibility and charge over public dollars seriously, as does the mayor, council, and the rest of city government, and we want to demonstrate we are faithful custodians of your funds. We are committed to addressing all the concerns found in the report, and we plan to provide updates each quarter until all the remaining issues are resolved.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Cornett. Any comments from the council tonight before we move on to our business?
Yes, Mr. President. Let me start by saying thank you, because I know when you came in with an auditor mindset, you were not going to give us any numbers. You could not prove yourself. And that was invaluable and the right way to approach this. And when you saw an issue, you made sure to meet with every council member and tell them of the issue. Now, I think one thing that the media gets wrong, and some of the things that's out there, is that, and you know this from being an auditor, the audit is the investigation. The audit brings you forward the findings, and then you go, like you've done tonight, and shown how you remedy those findings. The investigation occurred when you first did your internal review, and then we handed over forensic audit, which, by the way, and a lot of businesses, and the city would be the same, when you change CFOs, it is recommended to do a forensic audit, to go in and make sure that you're coming in with a clean slate. You know what you're facing as you come in as a new CFO. So that was not a crisis action. That was an action to take what you find and take it to the next level and get it reviewed. I commend you on jumping in there and solving some of those things right away. You know, it's unfortunate what happened with the ledger entry issues, because we do have resolutions showing where we did move that money to the investment fund, and where we did take that money and invest it in you know, great bond market, treasury market, interest rate issue environment, and actually made money on that money that we moved over, that we're going to see roll off in the next few months as those latter investments roll off, and we'll be able to have that money for a rainy day or for a future project. That was a good thing that the council did. That, you know, and I know when looking at it from there, they saw it as we made some mistakes on ledger, and we did, but you corrected them. So I just want to say thank you for correcting that, thank you for having a timeline to correct the issues that are not corrected as such. And I hope this gets the story of what you and your team did and what we all did working together, mayor and council, to take what was the issues that you brought to us, get answers, and rectify them as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. And this response really was in response to Council Member Murphy's request to have an action and an update as to what are we doing to correct some of these items, which we definitely wanted to do. I think one of the things that can be really confusing to the public is when we start talking about, you know, the general fund balance and then conversation, right, happening about missing money. It's really, really hard for people who are not accountants to separate what the difference is between cash and investments in the general fund. And so the cash and investments that the city has, those cash and investments serve to fund everything that city does, not just the general fund, but also capital project commitments that we've already made, all of our special revenues, all of our internal service funds. So when we talk about the general fund balance being overstated, that had nothing to do with cash or our cash position. Our cash position has always been strong, and I totally agree with you. It was a wise move to take funds that we had borrowed and get them invested so that we have our money working for us instead of just sitting there. So thank you for that.
Ms. Cornett, I had a question.
Councilor Murphy, I think. Is next.
Sorry, go ahead.
Councilor
No,
Murphy.
go ahead. Okay. I know in the past, when they had the payroll issue, mainly was between fire and police, they get paid differently, different time frames. And the process that was done before was that they were told to, I guess, report their error to their commander or their supervisor and not go through payroll. Is that process still the process, or they go straight to payroll?
I mean, we do field some questions in payroll. I think both fire and police, and Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that fire schedule is a challenging one for payroll. And so those chiefs have determined that it's a wise idea for people to come to them and ask questions. And if you see something weird, right, then we're communicating directly with them to try to jump into action and solve those problems. And to my knowledge, we don't have any issues other than some weird things happening on a pay stub. We don't have errors in payroll checks, which, am I right, Chief?
That is correct.
Okay.
We still report to the assistant chief, and assistant chief goes through all that and reports to you.
And that was really just chain of command.
And you had mentioned that y'all had reported all this to the proper authorities. What authorities exactly, who were they?
To the state. Yes?
To the AG?
Yes.
Thanks.
Councilor? Yeah, Mr. President. So personally, thank you, Mayor's Office, and thank you, Jennifer, for accommodating the request. I do want to say that this was not unsolicited, non-solicited audit from a standpoint. Again, as Jennifer stated, we went through 2 CFOs. To be real clear, in a 5-6 year period of time. And once Jennifer made her first initial evaluation, as she stated, the goal was to say, look, we need to bring in some other support to make sure we can kind of proceed moving forward. So thank you for doing that. So I know we're going to have several other updates as we progress through this year, next year. So we'll continue to try to make that happen. I do want to say this because a lot of people don't know about the fire. Again, I'm not a fireman, but I would probably say you guys, pay codes are, I do a lot more different type of pay codes than the average employee.
They're highly
So
involved.
it's a little bit about it. They work 2 on, 1 on, 2 off. So they have callback. They have a lot of different protocols, different than the average salary employee. That as long as you work 40 or whatnot, you still get your hours. Or some hourly folks is built in to have some form of overtime, but that may be 10%, but not like the fire department that work 1 on, 2 off. And 1 on is 24 hours. So I just want to be clear. Then they have other codes and rules they have to follow. They go over that. I think, Chief, don't you have a certain amount of time individuals can be up while working before? It's a lot of different things that go along with the requirement of operating equipment and working 24-hour shifts. So again, I'm not a fireman, I just deal with a lot of codes that I'm employed in, and that can be extremely hectic. So the item is not, they don't keep that information to themselves. The chain of command moves up, questions are asked, and then it's solicited back to our accounting process. So I just, for public record, it's quite a bit that goes along with the fire.
And we are working collaboratively together. So,
Okay, thank you.
If I could say, the payroll department's doing an exceptional job today with payroll. We have no issues with payroll. We do have some discrepancies on checks, but the pay is correct. And so we do have a unique pay schedule, but every fire department in the state of Alabama we work similar hours, 24 on, 48 off. And so it is unique, but they're getting their hands around it, and we're satisfied.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Any other comments? You're good. Thank you, Ms. Cornett.
thank you.